Danny! Danny! Where are you? I won't leave you!
The shrill ring of my phone pierced through the December midnight quiet at exactly 12:14 a.m., dragging me from the first proper sleep I'd managed in 3 weeks. My rough hands scrambled across the nightstand, accidentally sending an empty beer bottle crashing to the floor before finally locating the damn thing. Marcus Garrett speaking. Mr. Garrett, this is Sergeant Rodriguez with the County Sheriff's Department. We've recovered your nephew Daniel. I bolted upright in bed, suddenly wide awake. Danny? Jesus Christ, where did you find him? Pine Ridge National Forest, approximately 10 miles up the old timber access road. The child is breathing and conscious, but we require your immediate presence. He's refusing communication with any of our personnel except you specifically. I'll be there in under an hour. I threw on my heavy work boots and winter jacket in record time. The bitter December wind sliced through my thick flannel shirt like it was tissue paper as I stepped out into the frozen Idaho night. Each exhale created billowing white clouds in the mountain air. My ancient pickup truck's engine cranked stubbornly 3 times before finally turning over, clearly protesting the savage cold. The treacherous drive to the remote ranger station consumed 47 minutes of white-knuckle driving on black ice, my hands cramping from gripping the steering wheel so tightly. 4 endless days. Little Danny had vanished without a trace for 4 complete days, while his worthless mother, Carla, kept spinning lies about him staying with imaginary friends somewhere in town. The sheriff's department finally took serious action when elderly Mrs. Wilson telephoned to report spotting a small child wandering alone near the forest boundary, appearing lost and frightened. Sergeant Rodriguez intercepted me at the station's front entrance, his weathered face etched with concern. Kid's waiting inside for you. Moderate hypothermia has set in, but he's remarkably resilient. Medical says he'll make a full recovery. I shouldered through those heavy doors and spotted him immediately. Danny sat huddled beneath multiple thick wool blankets, his fragile 5-year-old body appearing impossibly small and vulnerable. Mud and forest debris coated his pale face, while those bright eyes that used to sparkle with joy whenever I visited now gazed into empty space with 1,000-yard stares. They appeared hollow and aged far beyond what any kindergartner should ever experience in their short lifetime. "Hey there, little warrior." I dropped to one knee beside him, fighting to keep my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. Danny's head rotated slowly in my direction. "Uncle Marcus? You actually came for me?" "Of course I came, kiddo. I'll always come for you." "Mommy told me that nobody in the whole world wants me anymore." Those devastating words struck me like a physical blow to the solar plexus. I maintained my composure externally, but internally something arctic and unforgiving crystallized deep within my ribcage. I'd harbored growing suspicions that Carla was completely unraveling mentally, but this horrific act, actually abandoning an innocent 5-year-old child in the frozen wilderness to potentially die? This exceeded my worst nightmares about her deteriorating condition. Your mother was absolutely wrong about that, Danny. My voice adopted the same unwavering tone I employed when executing critical structural welds that couldn't tolerate even microscopic flaws. You belong with me now, and I never abandon people who matter to me. Not ever. Danny's tiny hand emerged from beneath the protective blankets. I gently enclosed it within both of mine, immediately noticing how his small fingers remained frighteningly cold even after hours inside the heated building. "Am I allowed to come stay at your house tonight?" "That's precisely where we're heading right now, son." Sergeant Rodriguez approached with an intimidating stack of official paperwork requiring signatures. "Child Protective Services has scheduled an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. But tonight he's legally in your custody. We'll require your detailed statement regarding the discovery location and any information he provided about his ordeal." I scrawled my signature across every document without bothering to read the fine print. My complete attention remained focused on Danny, whose small hand hadn't released its grip on mine since making contact. Our return journey to the farmhouse passed in contemplative silence, broken only by the truck's heating system laboring at maximum capacity to warm our chilled bones. Danny succumbed to exhaustion against the passenger door, still cocooned within that ranger station blanket. I continuously glanced sideways every 30 seconds, compulsively verifying he was still breathing normally, still physically present beside me. Upon reaching our destination, I carefully lifted Danny's weightless form and carried him inside. The poor child felt like he weighed absolutely nothing substantial. I gently tucked him into the guest bedroom bed, The same room that had been hopefully prepared for visits that became increasingly infrequent as Carla descended deeper into her self-destructive spiral of chaos and instability. "Uncle Marcus?" Danny's voice emerged as barely audible whisper. "What is it, buddy? Do you think Mommy will ever come back to get me?" I settled onto the mattress edge beside him. Throughout our relationship, I'd maintained absolute honesty with this remarkable child, and I refused to compromise that sacred trust now, regardless of how painful the truth might prove. I genuinely don't know the answer to that question, Danny, but I can promise you're completely safe here with me. That's the only thing that truly matters right now. Danny nodded with solemn understanding and allowed his exhausted eyelids to close. I remained vigilant until his breathing patterns settled into the deep rhythm of peaceful sleep before retreating to the kitchen. I brewed a strong pot of coffee and positioned myself at the table, staring out through the window at those looming dark mountains. My phone vibrated with an incoming text message from Carla. "Hope everything worked out okay. Need some personal time to sort through my issues." I deleted her pathetic message without dignifying it with any response whatsoever. Exactly 2 weeks following that traumatic night, I found myself occupying a leather chair across from Robert Chen, the experienced family attorney who'd professionally managed my deceased brother Jake's complicated estate proceedings. His meticulously organized law office carried the distinctive aroma of aged leather and high-quality furniture polish. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, heavy snow continued falling steadily across the picturesque town square below. "The trust fund remains completely bulletproof," Robert explained while adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. "Jake invested considerable effort ensuring ironclad security when establishing these arrangements. Daniel cannot access any portion of those funds until reaching his 21st birthday, unless his legal guardian status undergoes official modification. Should that scenario occur, the newly appointed guardian would gain discretionary access for legitimate care and educational expenses." What's the total monetary amount we're discussing here? $900,000 currently held within the primary trust account. Additionally, the life insurance proceeds could potentially exceed $1.3 million by the time he reaches legal majority. I released a long, low whistle of amazement. My late brother had demonstrated far superior financial acumen than any family member had ever suspected. His lucrative construction management position had provided excellent compensation, and Jake had systematically saved every possible dollar throughout his abbreviated career. Is Carla aware of these substantial financial assets? She attended the formal will reading ceremony 3 years ago, but during that period, she was still... Robert diplomatically searched for appropriate professional terminology. She was still maintaining basic functional capabilities. That represented an exceptionally charitable characterization of her condition. Following Jake's tragic end in that catastrophic construction site accident, Carla managed to maintain some semblance of stability for approximately 6 months maximum. Then her serious drinking problem emerged. Initially, it manifested as wine accompanying dinner, then wine replacing dinner entirely, then consuming whatever heavy drinker beverages she could locate. The revolving door of unsuitable male companions inevitably followed. Transient drifters, chronic bar patrons, essentially anyone who demonstrated interest in an attractive blonde widow with questionable judgment and severe emotional problems. "What legal procedures are required for modifying guardianship arrangements?" I inquired. "She would need to formally petition the family court system and conclusively demonstrate her fitness for parental responsibilities, particularly considering recent documented incidents." Robert shuffled through his organized files. "Frankly, I consider such an outcome highly improbable given current circumstances. And if I pursue permanent legal guardianship, file the appropriate custody documentation. Given her documented abandonment and the Child Protective Services report clearly establishing neglect, the process should proceed relatively smoothly." I executed all necessary legal documents that same afternoon. By Christmas season, I had achieved official legal guardian status for Danny. Carla had mysteriously vanished with some long-haul trucker named Rick, reportedly heading south toward Nevada, according to reliable local intelligence sources. Mrs. Wilson, who maintained comprehensive awareness of such community developments, informed me that Danny had completely ceased inquiring about his mother's whereabouts. Danny enthusiastically assisted me installing Christmas lights around the farmhouse exterior and mastered the art of preparing pancakes from scratch. Christmas morning brought pure magic when he discovered the dirt bike positioned beneath our decorated tree, a compact Honda I'd completely rebuilt using salvaged components. the boy's face illuminated with genuine joy for the first time since that horrific night in the wilderness. Is this actually mine to keep forever? Every single bolt and component, kiddo. However, you're prohibited from riding without my direct supervision until you demonstrate sufficient maturity and experience. Danny nodded with grave understanding. I completely comprehend the safety requirements. That evening, while we relaxed beside the crackling wood-burning stove, Danny glanced up from the detailed model airplane he was meticulously constructing. Uncle Marcus? What's on your mind, son? I'm genuinely grateful I get to live here permanently now. I affectionately tousled his hair. The feeling is entirely mutual, kiddo. The following morning delivered a phone call from Child Protective Services requesting to schedule their mandatory home evaluation. After disconnecting, I surveyed the farmhouse with objective eyes. Everything appeared immaculately clean, comfortably warm, and completely secure. Danny possessed his own private bedroom, received regular nutritious meals, and enjoyed a predictable daily routine. Most crucially, he had someone who genuinely cherished his presence. These advantages far exceeded anything Carla had ever provided during her tenure as his primary caregiver. Subsequent years flowed past like chapters in a beloved novel. The farmhouse naturally developed comfortable rhythms that functioned perfectly for both our personalities. I consistently woke at 5:30 each morning, prepared coffee, and reviewed weather forecasts. Danny independently rose and dressed for school without requiring any prompting. By 7 o'clock sharp, we shared breakfast together, typically scrambled eggs with buttered toast, occasionally pancakes for special occasions. Weekend hours belonged to the welding workshop. Initially, Danny observed from a respectful distance while wearing specially ordered child-sized safety equipment. By age 8, he was efficiently organizing tools and memorizing various metal classifications. By 10, he was executing his first practice welds on scrap steel materials, his small hands displaying remarkable steadiness with the equipment. Maintain consistent arc length throughout the process, I instructed, while observing Danny concentrate on a practice joint. Excessive proximity causes electrode adhesion. Excessive distance creates porosity within the metal structure. Should I adjust the angle like this? Danny modified his positioning, the protective welding helmet transforming him into a miniature space explorer. Significantly improved technique. Now monitor your travel velocity. The child possessed authentic natural ability. His finished welds exhibited superior quality compared to my initial amateur attempts years earlier. Beyond technical skill, he demonstrated remarkable patience, a characteristic most children completely lack. He would dedicate entire hours perfecting a single joint until achieving his exacting standards. Our evenings were devoted to motorcycle adventures. The original Honda was supplemented by a larger bike as Danny's height increased, then a third machine when I determined he needed maintenance experience with diverse engine configurations. We explored trails throughout our property's backcountry, Danny faithfully following my lead while navigating through dense pine forests and across expansive meadows. Maintain relaxed grip on the handlebars, I called over the engine noise as we encountered particularly challenging terrain. Allow the motorcycle to perform the work. Danny immediately adjusted his technique, and his riding smoothed dramatically. The boy possessed complete natural instincts for this activity as well. By 12 years old, he could disassemble and reconstruct carburetors without assistance. By 13, he was surpassing my performance on technical trail sections. However, our most treasured moments occurred during quiet interludes. Dawn fishing expeditions to the creek meandering through our back 40 acres provided perfect tranquility. We would sit together in comfortable silence, monitoring our lines in the flowing water while listening to the mountains gradually awakening around our peaceful location. Do you think any large fish still inhabit this stream? Danny inquired one morning while reeling in another modest trout. Your father successfully caught an 18-inch rainbow exactly where you're standing when he was precisely your current age. I indicated a deep pool near the opposite bank. He battled that fish for nearly 25 minutes before achieving victory. Please share more stories about when you and Dad were growing up together. I had recounted these identical narratives countless times previously, but Danny never demonstrated fatigue with hearing them repeated. Stories describing Jake's legendary stubborn streak that frequently created complications. The memorable occasion when we constructed a homemade raft that immediately sank upon reaching the pond's center. Those brutal winter mornings when we were forced to break through ice formations just to access our preferred fishing locations. Your father possessed greater toughness than his physical appearance suggested, I explained while watching Danny cast his line with improving technique. He was smaller than me in stature, but he never retreated from important challenges. Am I similar to him in that way? Absolutely, son. You're identical to him in that crucial respect. Danny had matured into a contemplative, serious young man who approached responsibilities with genuine dedication. He consistently earned excellent academic grades without requiring encouragement, contributed around the workshop without being asked, and never created significant disciplinary issues. Other parents I encountered complained constantly about managing teenage behavior, but Danny at 15 was actually more pleasant company than most adults in my experience. I understood he maintained friendships at school, but rarely invited classmates to visit our home. He appeared to authentically prefer working in the shop and exploring mountain trails over socializing in town with peers. Some observers might characterize him as antisocial, but I completely understood his reasoning. After experiencing Carla's devastating betrayal, developing trust didn't occur easily. Wisdom dictated caution regarding who you permit into your inner circle. Are you romantically interested in anyone currently? I asked one evening while we collaborated on rebuilding a complex transmission system. Danny looked up from components he was systematically cleaning. There's this girl named Sarah Thompson in my advanced physics class. She's exceptionally intelligent. Do you plan to ask her out anytime soon? I'm still considering the possibility. Haven't decided yet. When you do make that decision, feel free to invite her over for dinner sometime. I'll make every effort to avoid embarrassing you excessively. Danny flashed me a knowing grin. You'll probably terrify her by discussing welding techniques for the entire evening. Welding represents genuinely fascinating subject matter. It combines scientific principles with artistic expression into one integrated skill. Whatever you say, Uncle Marcus. We continued working together in companionable silence while the radio provided soft background music. These represented my most cherished moments, just the two of us creating something useful with our hands, building practical solutions together. No requirement for complex conversations or profound discussions. Danny had exceeded all expectations despite the traumatic experiences he'd endured. Better than exceeded, actually. He had become responsible, industrious, and fundamentally decent. Absolutely nothing resembling his biological mother. But occasionally, during sleepless nights when insomnia plagued me, I found myself speculating whether Carla would eventually return to complicate our peaceful existence. The critical question wasn't whether she would attempt a comeback eventually, but precisely when she would appear and exactly what her motivations would be upon arrival. I attempted to suppress those troubling thoughts whenever they surfaced. We would confront that particular challenge when it materialized. Currently, our situation was genuinely excellent. Better than excellent, truthfully. Danny was home where he rightfully belonged, and that was the only consideration that truly mattered to me. Exactly 10 years after that frozen December night in the wilderness, Carla emerged from a pristine white luxury SUV like she was making a choreographed entrance at an exclusive country club gala. I observed from the workshop window as she smoothed her expensive designer dress and inspected her reflection in the vehicle's tinted glass. Her professionally styled blonde hair appeared absolutely flawless, her makeup applied with expert precision. She radiated the unmistakable aura of serious wealth. Danny was working beside me in the shop, using a grinder to smooth rough welds on a custom gate we were fabricating for the Wilson family's property. The grinding noise masked the SUV's silent arrival, but my firm hand on his shoulder caused him to look up and follow my gaze through the window. We both silently watched Carla stride toward the farmhouse with the confident bearing of someone who still considered it her rightful domain. Her stiletto heels created sharp clicking sounds against the gravel driveway. She wore an elegant cream-colored dress that undoubtedly cost more than most local residents earned during an entire month, accessorized with jewelry that captured and reflected the late afternoon sunlight brilliantly. Should I go outside and confront? Danny began to suggest. Remain here. I'll manage whatever this situation involves. I stepped outside precisely as Carla reached our front porch. She pivoted at the sound of my work boots crunching against the gravel surface, and briefly I detected something flickering across her carefully composed features, perhaps surprise or calculated assessment. Hello, Marcus. You appear to be thriving. Carla, what brings you back to our quiet corner of the world? She had aged remarkably gracefully, I was forced to acknowledge. Abundant money and skilled cosmetic procedures could accomplish impressive results. However, her eyes retained that same frigid blue coloration, reminiscent of winter skies. They had always been virtually impossible to decipher, but currently they evoked memories of hunters evaluating potential sufferers. You look wonderful as well. This mountain lifestyle obviously suits you perfectly. What specifically do you want here, Carla? She produced what seemed like forced laughter. Surely a mother can visit her own child without requiring ulterior motives. He ceased being your child the moment you abandoned him in the forest to die. That was an unfortunate mistake made during an extremely difficult period in my life. A mistake? I maintained careful control over my voice and emotional state. You transported a 5-year-old child 10 miles into dangerous wilderness and simply abandoned him there? I was confident someone would eventually locate him. I trusted that you would provide appropriate care. That was an incredibly reckless gamble, with an innocent child's survival. Carla's artificial smile became noticeably strained around the edges. I was young and terrified, still processing Jake's sudden end. People make regrettable decisions when they're emotionally devastated. Some individuals do. Others rise to meet their responsibilities when circumstances demand it. She moved closer, activating what I recognized as her most persuasive demeanor. I've genuinely improved, Marcus. Received professional counseling, resolved my psychological issues completely. I'm currently in an excellent position both financially and emotionally. I can provide Daniel with opportunities that are simply beyond your capabilities. He's already receiving excellent care and opportunities, thank you. From a bachelor uncle who earns his living through manual labor. She gestured dismissively toward my welding operation. I can offer him legitimate opportunities. Elite education, international travel, sophisticated cultural experiences. Everything Jake would have envisioned for his son's future? Don't you dare presume anything. My voice now carried an unmistakable warning. Don't you dare claim knowledge of Jake's wishes or intentions. He was my husband, Marcus, and he was my brother. If Jake were still alive today, he would instruct you to return to that fancy vehicle and disappear for another decade. Carla's carefully maintained facade slipped momentarily, revealing something considerably more sinister beneath the surface. Then she restored it with practiced efficiency. I believe we should allow Daniel to make this decision independently. He's 15 years old now, mature enough to determine his own future direction. Absolutely not happening. I beg your pardon? He's not some trophy to be contested between us. He's a vulnerable young person who has already survived more trauma than most adults experience. A young person who deserves his mother's presence in his life. I nearly burst into derisive laughter. You haven't functioned as his mother for 10 consecutive years. You can't simply appear wearing designer clothing and suddenly reclaim that abandoned role. Biological connections are biological connections, Marcus. Family courts recognize and respect those fundamental relationships. The warning was there, dressed up politely but cutting all the same. A cold weight spread through my chest, the same feeling I'd had that night at the ranger station. So this is really about court? Not exactly. We could work something out between adults, maybe shared custody. I can be flexible when it counts. No, you can't. You're not flexible. You're manipulative. That's very different. Carla's smile cracked, fake and stiff. I've changed, Marcus, whether you want to see it or not. Then prove it. Get back in that fancy car and drive away. Stay gone another 10 years. I can't. He's still my son. Behind us, the shop door creaked open. Danny came out, work clothes still on, safety glasses pushed up on his forehead. He had shot up over the past year, almost my height now. Broad shoulders from long hours in the shop and riding his bike. He looked like Jake at that age, but his eyes were calmer, sharper. Carla turned toward him, and for a moment, her mask slipped. What I saw wasn't love. It was ownership, like she was eyeing property she believed was hers. Daniel, she said softly, look at you. Almost a man. Danny stepped up beside me, steady and careful, like he was inspecting a weld. Hello, Mother. I've missed you so much, sweetheart. Every single day. Really? The quiet question landed heavy. Carla blinked, caught off guard. Of course, I think about you every day. But you never called. No letters. No visits. Things were complicated, but I'm here now, and that's what matters. Danny nodded, slow and thoughtful. Why now? What do you mean, darling? Why show up this year, not last year, or 5 years ago? Carla glanced at me, nervous, then back at him. I needed time to rebuild, to be the mother you deserve. And you think you are now? I'm trying my best. Danny stood quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was calm and firm. I've got school tomorrow and work in the shop after. Maybe you should come back another time. He turned and went inside. The door shut with a soft but final click. Carla stared after him, mouth open. He's so different. He grew up. That happens when you're around to see it. She turned back to me, eyes hard. We need to talk about Jake's trust fund. Daniel belongs with his mother. You haven't been his mother in 10 years. Courts don't care about grudges, Marcus. They care about blood and the child's best interest. I can give him more than you ever could. Like what? More absence? More neglect? Like stability, money, a proper home, real chances for his future. I almost laughed. This from the woman who left her 5-year-old alone in the woods and ran off with a trucker? That was 10 years ago. People change. Some do. Others just get better at hiding who they are. Carla brushed down her dress, a nervous tick. My lawyer will be in touch. I look forward to it. She walked to her SUV without another word. The engine purred and she drove off without looking back. I stayed until the car vanished around the bend, then went back into the shop. Danny was at his bench, working on the gate, but I saw the tension in his movements. You holding up, son? She doesn't look like I remember. Money and doctors can work wonders. She doesn't look like she's been through any pain at all. I picked up my tools. What do you remember from before? Bits and pieces. Her crying all the time, strange men at the house who smelled like booze, being hungry when she forgot groceries. He paused. And you showing up with food, taking me fishing on weekends. We worked in silence for a while. Then Danny set down his grinder and looked at me. She wants Dad's trust fund, right? I had never told him details, but he was smart enough to figure it out. How much is it? Enough that some people might do stupid things trying to get it. Danny nodded. So, what happens now? We wait, see her next move. And if she tries to take me, I met his eyes. Jake's eyes, but steadier, stronger. That will not happen. You're sure? Have I ever lied to you about anything that mattered? Never. Then trust me, you're staying here. Danny picked his grinder back up. Good. I love it here. We went back to work, but I felt the change hanging in the air. Carla's return had broken the calm, brought doubt into what had been steady ground. Peace had turned into a fight waiting to happen, and I knew her well enough to know she wouldn't back down. The real fight was coming. The only question was how it would strike.